Hi, everyone, and thank you, gentlemen, for participating in this panel today. We heard a lot today about the concept of GenAI, traditional AI, knowledge graphs, digital twins, and the like. And I would like to see here how that all integrates within the broader concept of operations, manufacturing, and supply chains as a whole. So I think the panel composition makes very good foundation for that, because we have experts from the industry and experts from service-related companies. So in that sense, I would like to start first and foremost with you, George. I would like to ask you, in terms of your entire GenAI, AI transformation journey so far at Philip Morris, where are you at the moment? What has transpired so far? And how do you foresee the overall concept of operations as a segregated form of different components like manufacturing, traditional operations, distribution operations, store replenishment, and the like for Papastratos being impacted by these kinds of technologies? And what have you done so far in that transformation journey?
Hi, Thanos. Thank you very much for the question. And also, I would like to thank the organizing committee for the invitation to speak here about AI and GenAI. A few things, first of all, about Papastratos, because this is a name that we are mostly widely known in Greece. Papastratos is a company 95 years old. And for a company to be at the top of its industry for so many years, it needs to build resilience and agility. And agility, especially when it comes to technological advancements, it means that we need to adopt, but also adapt any kind of new technologies that appear in order to retain our competitive advantage. And the same goes with GenAI and AI in general. And at this point, I'd like to highlight that we started actually working with AI BC, before ChatGPT. So one of the use cases that we actually started working on in our factory was about optimizing our heating, cooling, and ventilation system, which is a system basically that manages the temperature, humidity, and air quality in our premises. And that was a project that we did a few years before ChatGPT started. And the concept behind it was also how we could optimize the energy consumption, but also reduce the CO2 emissions. So this is a project that we successfully executed quite a few years ago. And it was also a case that later on was propagated to other premises within Philip Morris International. Now, GenAI is a different, let's say, kind of technology. And in order to successfully adopt it, we basically adopted a different kind of methodology that if I could sum it up in 3 words, I would say it's a test, learn, and scale approach. By the test and learn, we essentially run in iterations a lot of experiments, but those experiments were executed in a controlled environment, making sure that we are safe in terms of our data and our process, and we can take the learnings in multiple iterations so that we can then apply them in the next iteration and in the next use case. And this has been running for a period of approximately 2 years, and since the end of 2024, we went into the latest phase, the scale, where we have identified specific use cases that provide actual value to our organization, and we have started looking into how we can build and deploy them in a scalable manner. Now, the first thing that we identified that was missing from our infrastructure, because let's face it, as an organization, we didn't have the infrastructure to support this kind of massive technology. So the first thing that we identified was that we needed to build a new kind of infrastructure for that. And what did we do? We built another factory, an AI factory, in fact. And this AI factory provides us the ability to actually build and deploy GenAI solutions in a platform which is centralized, technology agnostic, and can make anything that we deploy there available to all other markets. And for the last few years, we have reviewed more than 360 use cases, and now we are in the process of actually deploying quite a few after we have prioritized to see which ones can bring the highest value in the organization as a whole. And coming to your last point about viewing also the other, let's say, stages about distribution and supply chain in general. Now, if we take a helicopter view and we see the entire set of those use cases, quite a lot of them apply to many areas such as knowledge management, such as, for example, route planning, forecasting, etc. But at the same time, GenAI is such a horizontal technology that it can be used quite easily with other technologies that are currently used within a factory, such as predictive and prescriptive analytics, digital twins, simulation of our operational processes. So if we look at it in a longer horizon, I would say that in the end, we will see GenAI embedded in all stages of the manufacturing process.
Thank you, Yorgo, for that very good overview. And coming then to Nikos, because Nikos, challenges are more or less the same. The industry is quite different. We're talking about heavy industry, Viohalco, Group, Steelmet, and so on, over 30 factories globally, a more federated model in terms of how you disseminate information in the downstream. And the same question here applies. Where are you so far in this entire transformation journey when it comes to GenAI, taking into account that we're talking about a more federated view, a lot of complexity when it comes to manufacturing-related operations, but a whole host of other surrounding supplementary operations that also need to be brought into the future using GenAI or AI technologies. So what's your take on that?
First of all, I would like to congratulate the team, the organizing team, for the beautiful event that they are hosting here, and of course to also say thank you for the invitation. Now, as you said, a few words about Viohalco as a group. Viohalco, as you pointed out, is a leading heavy metal processing company that operates across 6 segments. So we have a segment focusing on aluminum, copper, steel, pipes, cables, and of course we have a pillar focusing on real estate. We operate more than 32 factories across 8 countries. We deliver our products in more than 90 countries. We generate almost 7 billion euros per year. And we employ more than 13,000 people. Okay, so I'm sharing all these facts just to demonstrate, let's say, the diversity, the complexity of our operations. And this actually indicates also the opportunity that exists for AI there. Okay, so for us, AI is a key enabler, I would say, for innovation and efficiency. It actually supports our key business priorities. We use it in order to drive and support our key business priorities, which is reliability, quality, sustainability, and high quality of our end products. Okay. And the way we do that is by centering around 3 main areas. First of all, we use AI to empower our people. We use AI to, let's say, optimize our industrial and business processes. And of course, we try to do that in a safe and responsible way. This is also reflected on our, let's say, strategy, where we try to, let's say, organize our use cases in 2 main layers. One is the industrial layer, focusing actually on the shop floor, and the other one is the business layer. And of course, we have the 3rd layer, which is the foundational layer, all the necessary infrastructure, as Yorgos pointed out, that needs to be in place in order to flesh out in real life all these use cases. So when it comes to the shop floor, we are currently working on use cases around predictive maintenance, around quality assurance, I mean defects management during the production process. Also, we are working on areas around how we can optimize the processes on the ground, production processes, and of course how we can ensure health and safety across the production line. These are areas, by the way, that they are more related with traditional AI. Okay, it's like machine learning, deep learning, that kind of technologies. The question is how GenAI can contribute to that. What GenAI is doing is that it creates another additional layer in between the operator, the end user, and these complex tools. So actually, end users without technical knowledge, they can more easily, let's say, communicate in natural language with these tools, and they can adopt these kind of tools easier within their day-to-day life. This by itself increases adoption tremendously, and we see that this kind of technology are being used more and more within the daily operations. Now, when we go to, let's say, the business side of the things, the corporate services, I would say there the focus is more on boosting personal productivity. So we use GenAI tools, either off the shelf or customized tools. I could name a few, I mean, from, all the ChatGPT, Claude, all these things, in order to help our people augment themselves, boost their personal productivity, and also to automate back office operations. Okay. Now, the third layer, which is at least equally important, has to do with the foundational layer. And this is another area where we try to invest heavily and significantly. We hear a lot about, let's say, the ability of AI to deliver upon its promises, to create ROI, and so on and so forth. We even recently went through a report from MIT stating that 95% of the POCs fail to move to production. And this is true, indeed. I mean, most of the companies struggle to move to the production line, and not because the models of GenAI are not there. This is not the problem. The problem is that we are missing the foundational level. What I mean by that, I mean data readiness. I'm not sure if all the organizations, they do have the right infrastructure in place in order to use their data properly to feed these models. This is one. How do we manage to integrate all these nice models within our business processes? This is another point. Actually, at some point, AI will lead to business process engineering, but we are not there yet. We first need to integrate these technologies within the business process. Thirdly, how we manage to integrate with the current legacy systems. This is another problem. So this is another area that we try to invest early and significantly to build all the necessary foundational things like infrastructure, architectural designs, security models. Security is another huge element here, because AI is creating a new era of challenges for sure. So this is in a nutshell more or less how we are dealing with AI right now. Okay.
Perfect. Many thanks, Nikos, for that. And coming to Kostas, having heard both Nikos and Giorgos' take from an industry perspective, you from a more artificial intelligence transformation agency perspective, how would you tackle these challenges that we've heard so far, and what's your take? What are the biggest challenges going forward for AI adoption?
Thank you for the question. Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you in the panel. Yes, it looks like for sure we are facing very common challenges, although we have a different perspective. I mean, I personally have a strong AI academic background, and for many years I was in the digital transformation, digital innovation professional journey. And last year we've decided to invest in making an AI factory that could be used by European SMEs, startups, and other ambitious organizations to run their own AI labs, considering that, they cannot afford that like the big enterprise to have their own. So this gives us a lot of experience in the field now, working various projects. Some of them are very ambitious. You have to think about the challenge, as you said, the biggest challenge. I would say that in this last couple of years, the biggest challenge, I think, was the fact that we all understand, I really like the BC thing before ChatGPT thing, that, most of the people considering AI or confusing AI with GenAI, they think it's identical, let's say, and they all consider AI as which is a general purpose technology. But when we go into actual implementation and use of the applications, there we see a lot of confusions from the customer side on what they actually are looking for. Because although we have a chatbot in front of us, at the end of the day as an interface, which of course we love, because it's great that we are able to use our natural language and basically chat with anything, speak with everything, which is nice as an interface. It's different when I want to do my job and I simply want to make a question or retrieve something quickly. It's very different if I want the bot to tell me what is the best to do in my job, which is a recommendation, And of course, it's much different if I want the bot to do the job for me or with me. So basically, we're talking about a very different roadmap. And I think the biggest challenges that we were facing is for the people to understand that this is not a simple thing. There is a lot of work behind. You need data scientists, you need AI engineering, you need software development, and it's not just a prompt that delivers this expectation.
Thank you, Kostas. And coming to Fotis, one of the key permeating, let's say, paradigms coming from Philip Morris and Viohalco as a whole is that we're talking about distributed operations environments, federated models, difference between what we would say manufacturing, software level, or other surrounding operations. In your view, how can we deploy AI solutions or GenAI solutions or what have you in that sort of distributed and federated environment? What would make sense in terms of, deployment?
First of all, can you hear me? That's fine. Thanks a lot for the invitation to this panel, and also we are glad as Cogninn to participate in this event. Cogninn is actually a company building custom AI solutions, a particular framework that I will have the chance to explain to you that is called AutoDL. And given the question and the panel here, I would first of all like to connect the answer to what Mr. Riskas and Mr. Stathakis said before. So what they described a completely distributed environment within any industry. And from our experience, and of course the things that work out there, I would like to call operations everything. And at the end of the day, you have an admin part of the business, and also you have the production. And within the admin part and the production part, you have several other functionalities. So the need today, given also, again, I say what the former speaker said, is to formulate the business and then to start apply the AI, and of course, to make a kind of study for what type of infrastructure we need eventually. So this distributed environment, eventually we can deploy AI through several technologies that are out there today. And I will tell you later on also what is missing in our opinion. You have agentic AI frameworks in order to really employ LLMs in the best possible way. You have now protocols like model context protocols and agent-to-agent protocols in order to do agentic AI in a distributed environment. And finally, you have MLOps in order to do, you had already, to fine-tune and make optimization, talking about always for pre-trained models that most of the time we use. So summarizing all of this environment to any industry, I would say, because as Cogninn we tackle problems to any industry because we look into the data sets rather than, for example, particular pre-built solutions. The use cases are coming from the industry, and we can definitely deploy through all of these technologies that I told you before, given that we have a structure of the distributed operation environment.
Perfect. Thank you, Fotis. And now, if we start the second round of questions, and then it was more or less how we got here, now it's looking into the future, and maybe a year or so ago, Copilot adoption would be the order of the day, and now it's outdated completely. Or we're talking about GenAI being RPA on steroids at the moment, whereas the agentic potential is there and set to revolutionize the way of working. I would like to start with you, Nikos, and ask you, how do you see this going forward in terms of, agentic AI deploying more sophisticated GenAI solutions within the organization, and also done with your factory, your GenAI factory, in a more centralized manner? How do you see the future play out in terms of, okay, we're fine where we are at the moment, but we need to look into the future. Agentic AI is the future. And how do you plan on integrating agents within your current structure and set domain?
So the first part about the vision that we have in Philip Morris International, it's a vision that we will embed GenAI in every single aspect of our business, but while maintaining the highest standards in terms of governance and trust. And in order to make this a reality, the first thing that we need to start, just like my fellow panelists also mentioned, is to start with the people. So this comes in two levels, top-down, making sure that there are the appropriate performance metrics that we can actually measure the adoption of AI and how, as a company, we implement it internally, and also bottom-up in order to make sure that we educate our people, we provide them with tools that they are able to use it, and finally, we constantly trigger them to come up with new use cases that they can use this kind of technology within the organization. And in Papastratos, currently, we have Copilot as an application that is available to the majority of our employees. We constantly review use cases with our people in all teams to identify new potential initiatives that we can run using GenAI technologies. And at the same time, we run, along with other managers and the top management team, specific training sessions that we can educate our people so that they can make the best use out of it. Now, coming to agentic AI, because if you think where we are now using the current technology GenAI mostly as a chatbot and looking at it as an agentic AI, having an ecosystem of autonomous agents making decisions in milliseconds, utilizing a wide variety of information, this is something that I believe very few organizations are there yet. And for example, we talked about legacy systems earlier. We talked about agent-to-agent communication. These are things that we will need to make sure that they will be in place in a way that it will make it safe for the business, its data, and its processes. But if we think about it, agentic AI can provide a huge impact, especially to manufacturing companies. And just to give you a real example, imagine a ship that arrives in a port with merchandise. The distributor is not informed on time. The ship has the cargo unloaded, remaining within the port for many days and paying actually fees for that part as a company. And at the same time, a lot of the retail shops, the points of sale that you have, are out of stock. Okay, so if we have the agentic AI as a process embedded within the organization, a lot of these items will not take place. A lot of these events will not take place. You will have an agent monitoring the entire ship route. The moment it arrives, it will prepare the documentation, coordinate with the agent from the port authority, get approval, contact the transportation company, send the appropriate route plan to that transportation company. So what we see is generally a vision. We see a future where agentic AI will definitely provide a huge impact to our business and also for people moving from what we could say executors to AI agent orchestrators. And this is what we need to do to prepare our people for that future.
Thank you, Yorgos. Nikos, more or less the same question, but also take into account, except for the vision that you have at Viohalco Group as a whole, moving towards agentic AI. Also, of course, now that you are also, as we discussed, more federated model of deployment, do you see that changing in the future, becoming more centralized as GenAI mature, use cases might become more similar to some extent and might alleviate some of the very unique specificities that each segment has? What is your view on that?
Okay, first of all, talking about vision and where we would like to go, I believe that, or at least we aspire that to be an AI native company. What does it mean? It means that our people can incorporate and embed AI capabilities within their daily life. Okay. Actually, we see AI not as a IT side project or something that needs to be driven by a specific team like data and AI team. We see it as a set of capabilities that needs to be available to the end users, that they can use these tools in order to make their life easier on a daily basis. This is where we want to go. But the first and biggest milestone for getting there is to become ready. What does it mean? It means that each and every organization, and since you mentioned our federated model, actually, as I said, we have 6 different segments. So we would like each one of these segments to be in a position to understand, let's say, which of the new technology should test the technologies, understand if these technologies can work for them, and if they can work for them, then to scale. But in order to get to that point, this kind of readiness, this kind of mentality, it takes time. It's a transformation by itself. You need to educate your people. You need to upskill your people. You need to have all the necessary capabilities in place. And by doing that, then you are sure that in the future, you will be future-proof, because everything that appears, you will be ready to test it and apply it into your environment. This is where we would like to go to be honest. Now, talking about agentic solutions, yes, definitely we are experimenting with this kind of technologies in different areas. For example, we are doing stuff around sales. We are doing stuff around our travel agency. We have a travel agency inside our company taking care of traveling. We do a lot of things around procurement, finance, agentic stuff. We are trying actually to automate back office work. These are the low-hanging fruits, and these are good areas where we can, we have more structured data, to be honest, and this is where we can see big benefits. Okay, now, moving into the production line and having a fully autonomous agent, I think we are not there yet. Okay, first of all, we need to, let's be realistic, okay? We need to have a very, very rigid governance framework on how we set up and deploy these agents there. We need to make sure that these agents work properly and in a secure way. Okay, I have to say that the security models are not there yet. They need also to mature. Agents are opening a new world of threats and risks around this stuff. So I would say that in the production line, yes, technology might be there, but organizations are not there yet. So it will take some more time to see fully autonomous agents in the production line. But for the corporate services, yes, we can see a lot of task-oriented agents being implemented, and we are dealing with them. This is more or less how we see it. Now, you also asked me about federated model versus centralized model. As I said at the beginning, operating 32 factories and having 6 different segments, this is quite diverse and complex by itself. What does it mean? It means that each segment has its own, let's say, realities, its own, let's say, complexities, priorities, and its own maturity. Okay, so probably moving to a fully centralized model might not be the appropriate thing to do. Actually, we would like each and every segment to have its autonomy, okay, to shape and implement what it works better for them. And we would like also to have a hub, a central team, providing the steering, the governance, the best practices, enabling the knowledge sharing for them to be successful on what they are doing. This is more or less.
Thank you, Nico. And Kostas, coming to a second question for your end, something interesting that Nikos mentioned is, okay, yes, the technology might be there in terms of autonomous agents, but people, culture, maybe they're not there yet in order to implement fully our vision. However, maybe the data is not there yet as well. That's something that we have discussed a lot in the past, and I would like your view on that, because, you know, going forward in terms of, you know, the technology is there, agentic AI, the algorithmic component of that might become a commodity in the future, and data curation will be the next big thing and the order of the day. What is your view in terms of data, or lack thereof, and how we can potentially generate it in order to, you know, make the AI models work?
Athanasios, I was thinking the same thing, that Nikos is lucky. He says structured data, not just data. I have data, a lot of data and structured data. Lucky you, Nikos, you know. No, yes, I also want to go back to George's point as well, because he mentioned about the autonomous AI, which I think this is the goal for all the ambitious organization. And I think it's very clear, with no data, you cannot arrive there. I think we all agree on that. So, and because all our enterprises are not happy, okay, most of enterprises do have data, maybe not structured, but okay, in silos, etc. But if you consider the SMEs or even startups, they cannot have data anyway. So we had to face this challenge, actually, and this is where actually we've realized that there is value in GenAI. So basically, we're using GenAI as a path towards the autonomy, a way by creating experience bots or assistants that will start collecting data. That's one thing. The other thing is that in many of these companies, there is knowledge, but the knowledge exists as a best practice in the minds of people. And again, with GenAI, you can really create some interesting mechanisms to transform this unstructured knowledge to structured data, so that you can basically have something to start from. And I think the last also thing that is very important, actually we also have a very interesting project in this area, is if you don't have data, don't have data, then you have to synthesize data, which is also very interesting, and actually we're touching on that. So based on guidelines, best practices, and any information that we could collect from the organization of the people, like we will train somebody that we hire, we collect all that, and based on that, we are building synthetic data, okay, so fake data that simulate the reality, let's say, of these people, so that we have a starting point where we can boost the algorithms, start creating some results, and of course, from there, people again have to take over to reinforce, to guide, et cetera, et cetera. So I see that GenAI actually has an interesting role in filling the gap.
Makes sense, and it's like what we were mentioning earlier about fully autonomous systems, and also GenAI will play a role there in generating the data that will feed its own self in order to reinforce its learning. And Fotis, in that sense, what is your experience? Because we're talking about diverse environments. We have like a heavy metals industry, FMCG with George, even a further level of segregation between manufacturing, operations, differences AI, GenAI, and so on. In your experience, how do we capture the requirements to create such use cases from these kinds of different environments in a more structured and unified manner?
Very interesting question, and by the way, we deal every day with these kind of challenges, because at the end they are missing many parts within the industry. First of all, some industries are not ready, as Mr. Stathakis said, in terms of even infrastructure. And on the other hand, they have not designed also, especially if we are talking about large industries. If we are going to smaller industries, the things are easier. But again, you end up that you need new machines, any type of machines to run and deploy the AI. So talking before about the applications and how we can really have distributed operations through AI, now I would like to mention that we need infrastructure. And our experience is always like this. You try to build a GenAI agent with big data, and you end up that you need a cloud or a high capability machine. If you go, though, in a smaller data set, you can end up having a smaller PC. So you need to do a study and to propose also what type of infrastructure is required. And as I said before, if you have a large industry, you need to do this from the very beginning, because if it's a small industry, you can add 1-2 machines. They know the cost. On the other hand, the cost and the requirements are different when you're talking about a single user agent, or let me say a few users to talk to the agent and to use it, or we go to a multi-user agent where not 100, but at least a number of people simultaneously running the agent. On the other hand, it's already mentioned that we don't have only GenAI, we have also AI. And then, in general, you deal with, as we always mention, with ML and DL pipelines. And again, you have other type of requirements, and you may go also to the far edge. And not even edge, because I didn't mention that when we're talking about small machines, we call it edge. But we try to do also applications for the far edge, smaller devices. And all of this infrastructure should put in place at the beginning as a consultation, let's say, and then to start building the application that sometimes is not just one agent, it's an ML with DL, it's multiple agents, and so on and so forth. This is the situation out there, and this is our experience so far.
Thank you, Fotis. And coming now to the last round of questions, because we're running out of time, and it has been a very interesting discussion so far. I would like to, starting with you, George, say we're now into the future, autonomous agents are running rampant throughout the company and so on. How do we safeguard both their deployment, that they're returning value, that they are risk averse, that they are trusted, and are bringing value to the entire organization, not just monetary, but in terms of people? What is your view is the ultimate governance model around having autonomous agents throughout an enterprise or a company such as yours?
Yes, let's talk about governance then, because governance is a favorite word in many large corporations. And in my view, there are three things that you can't avoid, not two: death, taxes, and governance. So you will find it everywhere: data governance, project governance, everywhere is governance. Now,
Governance?
Agent governance, exactly. Now the question is it required? Yes, it is required. The tricky part for an organization is to find the balance that makes governance actually an obstacle remover rather than slowing things down. And I believe at Papastratos we have found this very good balance in order to actually use the governance in our benefit and running things at an impeccable pace and projects along with that. Now, when it comes to the agentic AI, governance will need to change. So the current governance process within an organization are based very much on people decisions. Now, when you have, though, autonomous agents making decisions real time in milliseconds, first of all, you need to have a very good auditing process to make sure that not only the input and the output are captured, but also the reasoning process. So these agents will be making decisions, but we will not know the why. This why will need to be recorded and made available so that we can review upon it. And the other part also is the kind of decisions that these agents will be making. So in order to make the best out of it, you need to make agents available to actually perform based on their decisions. But if we're talking about high-stake items, if we're talking about decisions that impact in a very much broader scope of the organization, you will need to put the human in the loop. So governance processes will change into a hybrid model, agent and human together, in order to define the decision-making ecosystem and make sure that every single decision is made having the good of the company, as I will say it, at the utmost respect.
Thank you, Giorgo. Nico, more or less the same question, but taking into account that we're, like we discussed, 6 different segments, a bit more segregated or federated model. Same issue about governance and the agentic AI implementation. And also, of course, if I add an additional spin there, how does it differentiate between the impact that will be between the blue-collar workforce and the white-collar workforce, taking into account that we discussed earlier, over 30 factors and so on, so a lot of difference in balance between these two types of workforces.
Okay, just to give you an idea why governance is that important. We are working, as I said, on several cases around agents. Let's pick, for example, the travel agent that we are working on. What does it do is it helps us booking, let's say, flights and, let's say, hotels when we are traveling, okay? So instead of having a physical agent doing the work, we have, let's say, a travel agent to do that. Okay, we run the POC is fantastic. And everyone thinks that the job is done. No, the job just started. I have people from IT asking me, where are you going to put that? How you define and how you design these agents? In which environments? How you release them? Who is going to be responsible for publishing that? Who is going to provide level 1 support on this one? Same questions are coming from business. To whom am I going if something is not working? Then I have security. Can you tell me how you track which kind of tools you are invoking through your agents? Can you tell me what kind of integrations you are doing through which APIs? And all of these things. And you need to have answers. And that's why I'm saying that probably we are not there yet as we have to be. And that's why we need this kind of governance. We need to set the right rules on how we are going to absorb this new technology and integrate it in our current processes. This is all about governance, and this is one of the hottest and biggest topics that we are trying to address right now and lay the foundations. After that, I can release, I can work fast on different cases. And actually, this is our ambition, as I said, to be prepared, I mean, to be able to fail fast or prove the value fast. Okay, but you need this kind of governance. The same goes also for agentic. Now, a lot of people, they talk about, let's say, AI replacing jobs, a lot of people becoming redundant, and so on and so forth. To my view, AI does nothing different from any other technology, meaning changing the nature of work. Okay. You said blue collars. I can tell you, for example, that in production line, by having AI, you can increase the security and safety within the production line. Imagine having systems through CCTV cameras alerting you in real time for hazards that exist in the production line. You are going to save lives, you are going to be more resilient in your production. Imagine, let's say, AI systems informing you about specific parameters or specific processes that can optimize the end result. Imagine AI systems informing operators at the beginning of the production process that this batch is not going to be of good quality because there is a defect that you cannot see it that easily, and so on and so forth. So you increase safety, you increase quality. You even support the maintenance team to deal with potential failures much earlier than anticipated. And this can be run by the people on the ground, because GenAI comes as a layer on top of these complex tools to help the end users to understand and use these tools, because so far they are quite complex for them to incorporate in their daily life. Okay, and the same, of course, goes for the white collars people. And one point here: have you ever, let's say, consider or question yourself why tools like I don't know, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of these tools are being adopted that much? Because they have zero integration with systems, they have zero integration with workflows, and on the other side, they boost your personal productivity. So you have zero overhead and you have all the potentials of AI. But try to create customized digital assistants as we do, and then you will realize that this connection with legacy systems starts to getting a little bit more difficult. So the real challenge in adopting all these things is not technology, is not the upskilling and reskilling, is the balance that you need to have in juggling with all these elements. Because in AI, you need to move at the same time across a lot of different fronts. For example, you need to create your infrastructure, you need to do upskilling, reskilling, you need to run adoption programs, you need to identify use cases that resonate well with the business. So keeping the balance among all this at the right pace and with the right sense of urgency while things are changing that fast, this is the real beauty, it's beautiness, and the real, let's say, challenge for being really AI native. Okay.
Thank you, Nico. And from what I hear, human will remain in the loop in some way, shape, or form. So, Kostas, your view about human in the loop within this kind of context, please go ahead and let's keep it short because time is almost up. So.
I see that, yes. So I think I just need to highlight back what also George mentioned about the human in the loop. It's very important. Integration is very important as well, but it's an IT thing that we can sort it easy. But creating the autonomy, we do need people through the whole process. And initially, at the beginning, actually, we need them more than later because they are part of the training of the algorithms. Either it's reinforcement, validation, or whatever this is. And then you have ethics, you have legal, you have responsibilities, you have a UA Act, you have very different reasons why you can really draw the perfect process, and then governance will just kill it and make it not practical. So for sure, we have to consider it. I totally agree with all the previous panelists.
And Fotis, final question for you, taking into account all the previous and, human will remain in the loop, agents will run or not run amok within the company. How do we keep everything secure in this kind of environment?
Yeah, I would like really to mention that all of these requirements end up to a certain decentralized AI system, okay? For example, I brought here with me some of the edge, okay? Here we have the edge, and here we have the cloud, okay? So, and imagine that this is, for example, the admin, and here is the production, and you can break it into different cloud and edge. So eventually you like to have different domains within the industry, autonomous domains, and we end up to have a completely network of agents, network of minds. Someone called back in time the concept, the Internet of Minds, because eventually you have all of these agents and AI components, deep learning models. As a company, we have already identified that it is missing a framework that integrates all of things together. So we have agentic AI, but we don't have integrated with, for example, new protocols that do also training, because the MCP and A2A is also for inference for the application, because we like also to train the models within the industry and not only do, for example, to only employ or orchestrate the models. And finally, the MLOps that needs also fine-tuning and all of this stuff. So eventually, we need interoperability, so new protocols and standards. We need security and trustworthiness. In our platform, we deploy zero trust principles. And finally, we would like also to have reliability that, in my opinion, is the most expensive part, because coming also from the network also domain, imagine that the model corrects its own errors, as your mobile phone is doing right now for having good communications. And this means reliability that needs a lot of computing power. We'll see. We have a very big road ahead for all of us.
Exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. It was a very interesting discussion. And I hope everyone in the audience found it interesting as well. So this wraps our session up. Many thanks for the very interesting insights. I will keep that humans will remain in the loop in some way, shape, or form. GenAI is not RPA on steroids, and it's much more than that. And of course, that we have very exciting times ahead of us in terms of implementing agentic AI into such complex and intriguing industry domains like FMCG and heavy metals. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.